of the University of California at Berkeley, has been one of the most influential thinkers on human-nature relations, and my dissertation chair. Whereas Carolyn Merchant's first book, The Death of Nature, Women, Ecology, and the Scientific Revolution, established her as a pioneering thinker. And ever since its publication in 1980, this foundational book has shaped the fields of women's studies, environmental history, and the history of science. Whereas in The Death of Nature, Carolyn's message was about nothing less than transforming the foundations of the dominant modern worldview in the pursuit of a more promising, more just and equitable, more ecological worldview, and a better world. Whereas her subsequent groundbreaking writing in a dozen books and over 100 single-authored research articles have fortified her position as one of the most influential scholars of the environment still today. Whereas some of her other influential books include titles such as Ecological Revolutions, Radical Ecology, Earth Care, Reinventing Eden, American Environmental History, Autonomous Nature, Spare the Birds, Science and Nature, along with 3 edited books. Whereas Carolyn has continued to develop her ideas by way of many of the world's influential institutions, including a Fulbright, a fellowship at the Princeton Institute for Advanced Studies, 2 fellowships at the Stanford Center for Advanced Studies in the Behavioral Sciences. And finally, whereas many times Carolyn said, "You'll be my last graduate student," or "This is going to be my last project," or famously, "This will be my last book." And yet, each time, that was not correct. Indeed, Carolyn is currently working on yet one more path-breaking book, coming soon, on the formidable topic of the environmental humanities and the age of the Anthropocene. Please welcome Carolyn Merchant.
Carolyn Merchant, the California Institute of Integral Studies expresses its gratitude and esteem by awarding you the degree Doctor of Humane Letters in Environmental Humanities, honoris causa.
Thank you all for this extraordinary honor. I am delighted to receive this honorary degree from the California Institute of Integral Studies. As CIIS graduates, you all will be going out into a world to face tremendous challenges, both to the earth and to humanity. In fact, we all exist in a cosmic context, and in reality, in fact, we are all just blips of life in a sea of eternity. Each life, whether human, animal, plant, or bacterium, constantly combats the most relentless and unforgiving of nature's laws, the second law of thermodynamics. Each life loses its battle. Why? Because the earth is running down. It is moving from order to disorder, while entropy, the energy unavailable to do work, is constantly increasing. The end of the earth will be a heat death in which all temperatures are equal, no movement, no change, no transformation. Evolution, which creates new order, at first seems to defy entropy. It creates ever more complex varieties, species, genera, and families as new energy is supplied from the sun. But as each new life form confronts the second law, it loses its battle. Each life reproduces its own kind, grows old, and dies. Each life is still a blip that exists for a brief moment in time before it vanishes forever. Whether the universe itself will succumb to a heat death as it constantly expands and its temperature differentials approach zero, or whether it will contract and collapse into a black hole and reemerge is an open question. But as we approach the mid-21st century, the loss of multitudes of life forms is of mounting concern. As we face the effects of global warming from continued burning of fossil fuels, we will increasingly encounter extreme weather patterns, melting polar ice, hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes, raising the specter of the death of the earth itself. The concept of a new geological era, the Anthropocene, as named by scientists Paul Crutzen and Eugene Sturmer in the year 2000, in which human activities impact nature in devastating new ways, suggests that the earth, as we know it today, may cease to exist in the future. Rethinking nature in the Anthropocene, especially since the advent of James Watt's steam engine in the late 1700s and the increased burning of fossil fuels, has profound implications for reconceptualizing not only the sciences, but in particular the humanities, the history of consciousness, and in fact, all the programs here at CIIS, which are designed to help to solve these problems. How, for example, is the smoke, air, and water pollution associated with global warming reflected in history, art, literature, philosophy, ethics, justice, and consciousness? How does the very idea of what it means to be human change with climate change? What does the future hold for humans in integral studies in the age of the Anthropocene? In attempting to answer these questions and fill this gap, I ask the following. In what ways are the humanities responding to awareness of global environmental change in the Anthropocene? And how are we formulating responses to the dilemmas posed by it? What contributions to understanding, analyzing, and crafting responses to environmental change in the Anthropocene are being made by scholars and practitioners in the fields of the humanities, and in particular people here at CIIS? What ethical systems and justice theories are being developed to help resolve personal developments and help peoples of different cultures to resolve social dilemmas? In what ways might representations of nature in the Anthropocene instill within us new behavioral and social changes? In the Anthropocene, much is at stake for the mutual survival of humanity, nature. The California Institute of Integral Studies is of critical importance in bringing the environmental crisis of the 21st century to the attention of the American public. As graduates of CIIS, it is critical for you to go out into the world and to try to help resolve these intractable problems. Language and images can play formative roles in creating awareness and changing personal behavior and public policy. The increasing buildup of greenhouse gases leading to global warming and the melting of Arctic, Antarctic, and mountaintop glaciers and snows has enormous impact on rising sea levels and hence on human and other forms of life around the world. The effects of climate change are manifested in the warming waters, drought, desertification, extinction and migration of species, and in particular on human populations. Women, especially those in developing countries, experience the burden of increased work, carrying water from distant sources, gathering fuel, and caring for families. Starvation, thirst, lack of energy, and the spread of disease all result in suffering and loss of life, especially those who are poor and work in the working classes and racially discriminated peoples. It is critical to reach solutions to the resulting global ecological and humanitarian crisis. Such solutions entail the kinds of approaches explored here by the programs at CIIS. The Earth itself, in some form, will continue, but in a much altered state, and it is incumbent on those of us living now and on you going out into your future lives to make the changes that will save humanity and nature as we know it today. My mantra is solar panels on every roof, bicycles in every garage, and vegetables in every backyard. We are all visitors on the earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. At this time, please join me in inviting retiring faculty member Brett